Welcome to my tips for the 21st of September 2024. Let's have a quick look at how we did last week. Now, I did say the Saturday had some really good odds on some chances that I didn't think would run a place. So we had some really good results. So if we look at the 14th, which was last Saturday, I ended up making $3.28 for those that met the odds requirements, which is pretty good. That's 10% outlay on that, or profit on that risk of $30 liability per selection. And if we took all of the selections, we made $5.55 again on that $30 liability. So really, really good on that kind of outlay. That's taken our total tips up to 397 for a profit of $62.09 on, again, $30 liability. Had you stuck to the odds, it's only had 224 tips that met the odds, and it has made $31.33. So we've covered an entire loss on sticking to the odds, and we've covered two losses on those where we just took the selections regardless of price. So that's not too bad. We've hit one unsuccessful lay, so we've only lost money once on 397 selections. So I'd like to see if we can continue that through today again, but today was much harder to find some selections. Definitely a much harder day to find those lays. But before I jump into that, I am going to just remind you that I am in the pros versus bookies competition that is on Betfair. And again, my lay this week was successful and didn't run a place. When I put it in, it was 210 on fixed odds. And obviously I'm looking for it to lose. It did get out to, I think it was $4.80, something around there. So using the same techniques that I use to find almost certain long shots that lose, I just use those on the favourites, and it will also work there. Obviously, you're going to have more of those lays come in and win the races because they're favourites generally for a reason and low odds, which means you're going to have a lot more variance. So it's not very much variance when we're trying to lay long shots that should actually lose. Now, I could go through all of the horses and do it at all odds. We'd probably make a lot more money doing it, but it does take a long time to actually get through these selections. If we look at what I did this morning, it still took over 2.5 hours to find the selections this morning. So let me jump in and get to those selections now. So got them down here. Now, there's 3 tracks where I just couldn't find a selection, and there's some really good racing going on at those tracks. Very competitive. Doesn't mean there weren't long shots. I just didn't like laying any of those. So they were Belmont, Caulfield, and the Gold Coast. So I'm not going to have any selections for those 3 tracks. So let's get into the tracks that I did do. We had Randwick. I've only got race 10 there, number 9. I'm willing to go up to $500. Now, that horse is outclassed. It's running at the wrong distance, and I think it needs to run a lot further. That's the only one at Randwick. Then we go to Morphettville, where I've got 2 selections that I'll lay at any odds. So these are definite lays. It's basically the first and the last race. Race 1, number 7, risking up to 1,000 in the odds. The trainer is looking for a distance that might work for this horse. I don't think the distance in this race is still going to suit this horse, and he's probably going to have to keep looking. So I expect another loss there. And Morphettville, race 9, number 18, again out to the $1,000 odds. It's a major step up in class. It's not running well enough to be a contender in this race at all. So, as you know, I do like to lay those horses that are the double-digit tab numbers. Generally, if they've been handicapped poorly in the race, I don't think the weight that they get off generally helps enough to offset some of these the bad form that they have. Then we jump to Newcastle. I've got a few at Newcastle. So race 1, number 7, up to $150 in the odds. It's had 8 runs for 0 wins on good ground, and it's had 20 runs in its career for only 1 win, so it's not very likely here. Newcastle race 3, number 3, up to odds of $200. It's not rating well enough for this race in several ratings that I have, and it's basically had 4 starts and hasn't won at all and not been close. Then we go to Newcastle race 4. I've gone the top weight here, number 1, risking it up to only $80 in the odds. The reason being it is the top weight. It has an apprentice with a 3 kilogram claim. So the trainer obviously thinks the weight on this horse is a bit much, but the trials that it's recently done don't suggest it can win in this race. So happy to risk it in this one. Newcastle race 5, number 15, up to $80 in the odds again. It hasn't done anything. It's likely to get back. It hasn't done much in the races that it's had. I do expect it to get back and not run on and catch these horses. The reason being the horses up front just look a touch too good for it. And Newcastle race 6, number 12, up to $400 in the odds. So a bit more confident about this one. It's had 9 runs in the last 12 months, and it hasn't even placed in that time. So it's completely out of form. I don't expect it to pick up form in this race here. Then we jump over to Wagga. Now, Wagga has some really poor horses running around. Problem is there's not good horses also in those races. But I found a few. So Wagga race 1, number 15, up to 150. It hasn't done anything in the races that it's had. It's got a wide barrier. It's probably going to get to the back and it's not going to be able to run on. Wagga race 2, I've gone 3 horses by the looks of it in this race, and I'm just going to double check that I did get that correctly. So I just want to make sure when I put the numbers out of whack. It was race 2, wasn't it? Race 2, let's have a look. So I said 6, yeah, 6, 10 and 9. Okay. So number 6. So Wagga race 2, number 6. I'm willing to risk it up to $50. I'm risking that one based on it running at the back of the field and unlikely to improve its position. I've gone number 10 as well in the same race up to 120. It's not a winner based on its recent run and its trial form. And I've gone number 9 just up to $60. It hasn't run out this trip before, and I'm not sure it actually will run out this trip, and it'll probably die on its run. So we'll see how that goes. Then we jump to Wagga race 6. This was an interesting one. It's a race of 2 different classes of horses, and 3 of them are just completely outclassed by the rest of the others. So Wagga race 6, we're going to lay number 6, 8, and 9, all because they're outclassed. They're just in the wrong race. They've got no chance against the horses that are here. So number 6, I'm willing to risk up to 80. Number 8, I'm willing to risk up to 150. And number 9, I'm willing to risk up to 150. Now, just to show you how outclassed they are, if I jump into the form for Wagga and we said it was race 6, let's just have a quick look here. Just look at the prize money on these horses. So the top 2 are running 13,000 career dollars per start. Then you kind of get a few here in the 7 and 6,000s, and then the three that were laying here drop down to 1.9, 1.5, and 0.6. That's a massive drop off. We've also got apprentices on two of them, and this jockey is not one of the top jockeys in the race. So you kind of got top jockeys, top horses, and top trainers up here in this race. These three really just don't have a chance. So I didn't want to go too far out on them, just because if you look at the top horses, they're not running at their best form, but they should be running well enough to win this. Then we jump across to Barraville. Race 4, number 9. It's a big step up in the competition, and I don't think it's going to handle that competition. So I'm going to risk that up to $100. Then we have Echuca, race 2, number 15. That was a terrible race. Again, I'll show you that one because it was quite interesting. Let's go have a look at Echuca. Let's click the right race. Echuca race 2. Look at the number of horses here that are 100 plus. And even if you look at the top few, we're talking horses that, have lost by 5 lengths. This horse has done a little bit better, but only 2 placings out of its 4 starts. Again, this one's lost by 4.8 lengths last start. This is a really terrible race, but this many 100 plus shots without a really solid set of favourites. Yes, the ratings have only these 3 in the race, but I'm just not confident that those 3 are where the winner's going to come from. But I was still able to pick up number 15. I said this is the worst out of all of those, so I'm willing to risk that one up to 200. And then race 3, we've got numbers 9 and 15. So number 9, I'm going to risk up to $300. It had a poor start to its career. Its best effort in its career so far has been 7 lengths behind the winner. So don't see it featuring here. And number 15 in the same race. It finished more than 10 lengths behind in all of the races it's run. So going up to $200. Then we have Dalby, race 2, number 12. That is one where I'm willing to risk up to the $1,000 odds again, so any odds. It's a definite lay. The barrier it's got is going to hinder its chances, and it hasn't done anything. So being in that barrier, getting caught at the back, it's going to basically get stuck there in a field where it's just not going to have the pace to run the others down. Then we have race 5. I've got numbers 10 and 11. So number 10, I'm only going to go to 50. It's had 5 runs at this distance for no placings and 12 runs this year for 1 placing. Now, the reason I've only gone to 50 is the trainer obviously thinks this is the distance for this horse. He's gone at it 5 times. It's not placed in those 5 times, but this is its 6th run at that distance. Trainers will generally know where the horses should be running. Maybe he's just been putting them in 2 competitive races. I don't see this as being the race it wins, but I didn't want to risk it above that $50 odds. And number 11, I'm willing to go up to $500 because it's only beaten 7 horses out of the 6 races it's run in the last 12 months. So it's pretty much at the back for most of these races and never passes a horse. So can't really see it featuring. Then we jump out to Darwin, where in race 3, I'm willing to go again up to $1,000 odds on number 11. It's outclassed in this race. It hasn't run very well at this track. And based on that and the other horses which are in this race being in form, I just don't see it featuring. It may try to get to the lead, but I expect that number 11 here will be towards the back and not run on. Now, that's different to race 5, where I do expect this horse to lead, and I don't like taking horses that lead. Sometimes they can just pincher race. In this case, I'm willing to risk it up to the $40, and that's why I've set the odds at 40, because it will be leading on a dirt track, which is an advantage. But it's tried to lead before quite a few times. It tends to die on its run in the last 200 meters. So my expectation is it's just not fit enough, or it doesn't have the speed to hold that lead in that last 100 to 200 meters. So I do expect that it'll be in front. You may be able to lay it for less in running because of that. But in the end, I expect other horses to go past it. So that will be it for the day. There's not many selections. It was a struggle to find selections today. If I have a quick look, we've only got 24 selections for today, and there's a lot of racing on and good racing to watch. So I'll leave it there, but definitely hope that we get another 24 correct. Hopefully none of these are scratched. That'll put us up over the 400 tips. Now, I have been doing some tips during the week for myself, and I'm generally doing roughly, I would say 40, 50 tips, maybe a few more during the week. Now, I'm not posting them, so I'm not putting them on here. I haven't had a loser during that midweek racing. It's a bit different to weekend racing, especially Saturday racing, where you have to be a little bit more careful because there are a lot of bad horses running. But had I included those, we'd easily be way up over the 500 tips by now, and still not had a loss. So there's definitely, if you were to do this professionally, there's definitely a chance that, you could make some money midweek as well as the weekends. But again, you're not doing it on risking $30 liability. You really need to be risking 3,000, 10,000, that kind of liability on these horses. Because if a horse goes off at 500 to 1, you pretty much, a 3,000 liability is only $6. You're not winning a heap on these. So you need to be putting big money in if you're going to be laying long shots, and that is always a risk. And when you do lose, it takes a while to recover. So I'll leave it there. If you are laying these, good luck. I will be going to put my lays in straight after this. I do recommend that if you are going to do it at any odds, that you do part of your wager at any odds and set the others at a limit, either in the exchange or using the BSP limit functionality on Betfair. Obviously, we're laying, so the exchange is where you want to be doing this. You want to be on Betfair. Betfair is a great spot to be getting better odds on a lot of things, but it gives you that capability to lay horses, and that's what we're trying to do here, and be a consistent 99% plus strike rate. Okay, I'll leave it there. I will likely get some tips up tomorrow morning for Sunday. Hopefully that's a much easier day to pick some losers, and we'll see how we go. But so far, I'm pretty happy with only one accident out of the 397 selections. Thanks for sticking around if you've stayed this long, and always feel free to add questions into the comments. I'm always happy to answer, and happy to, if people reach out on email as well, and have a chat. Okay, thanks everyone. Enjoy the day of racing. See ya.